Anthony Volpe, welcome to the New York Yankees. But are you actually going to play?
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees. I'm your host, Stacey Gotsoulias, and Locked On Yankees is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'd like to thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Baseball GM. If you've ever dreamed of becoming an MLB GM and managing your own franchise, then this game is for you. Our listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On. Download in the App Store today. With me, as always, is my producer, Steve Granado. Steve, tell everyone what we're doing today.
Wow, we got some stuff to talk about, don't we, Stace? It was a busy weekend for the Yankees. If you are here for the first time, thanks for checking us out. Make sure to hit subscribe because our Ultimate Yankees Guide is coming out on Wednesday. So you want to make sure to hit the notification bell as well so you don't miss that episode. But in this one here today, Luis Severino hurt. We're going to talk about some options, what the Yankees are thinking about doing with the starting rotation. And we're trying to set a timeline right now. We don't know exactly what that timeline looks like. More details in just a few moments. Of course, we had some other moves that weren't Anthony Volpe, some interesting bullpen moves. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show. But Stacey, let's start with the obvious big news. We were wrong. We were wrong. We talked about it a couple of days ago. We thought we were going to be wrong because, Volpe's got a chance. But now it is tried and true. Anthony Volpe, opening day 2023.
Unbelievable. I can't believe they did it. My first thought is I cannot believe they did this. It was very surprising, and it made me very happy, and I love the way they did it. If you guys hadn't seen it, they brought Volpe into Boone's office, had a camera set up that he didn't know was there, and Boone basically did an Academy Award nominee kind of acting job there. I mean, amazing, making it seem like he wasn't going to make the roster, and then said, yeah, we know he only played 22 games in AAA, but we think you can develop up here in New York. Welcome. And Volpe looked like he was going to fall onto the floor. So it was amazing. And what a story for him, coming into this, knowing the competition that was happening. And it really was between him and Peraza. Like, they were trying to do things with IKF all over the field. And it was really just between those two. And it's amazing that here we are, March 27th, and Anthony Volpe is going to be on the opening day roster.
Yeah, I think, we have been talking about this, obviously, since I started a month ago here on the show.
Yeah.
I think it was one of the first things we talked about. And I think overall, he made it obvious that he deserves a chance. Is he going to stick?
Right.
That's TBD. I think if he doesn't stick, there's no shame in that whatsoever because of how little AAA time he has had. But this he's a great kid. And with firsthand knowledge, the month that I got to see him and be with him and watch him develop at the AAA level and admittedly struggle at the AAA level at the end of last season. We heard it during our minor league previews from, I believe it was Steven Cusimano talking about it, how he just goes about his business every day, good or bad. And that can sound like a cop out or, a generic take or whatever. But I saw that his demeanor never changed. Again, he went through a really tough slump in that short time with the Rail Riders last season, where he was looking lost at the plate. He was trying to catch up. He was behind. He was chasing. Like, there were some really bad at bats in that tough stretch. But I mean, you look at the numbers from spring, albeit spring numbers, but numbers nonetheless. 51 at bats, 60 plate appearances, 314 average. He did strike out 13 times in 17 games, so the strikeouts are still there, and I think those are going to continue into the major league season. Almost said minor league season. Into the major league season. Went deep 3 times, a triple, 6 doubles, drove in 5, walked a couple of times. I want to see those strikeout numbers dip, and I think they will. Overall, because he's got a pretty fluid, easy swing. But I'm just happy for the kid. It's hard not to be happy for him. A little bit later in the show, we're going to talk about Oswald Peraza being optioned to the Rail Riders, and I think that's the tough pill to swallow in this whole thing.
Yeah.
but again, it's hard not to be happy for Volpe.
Yeah, it's I have to say I watched him play the other day and, he looked I wouldn't say he looked silly in his first at bat, but he made an adjustment in his second at bat and hit a first pitch home run. And I can't remember who it was on the broadcast who said that they noticed. They were like, "Yeah, you could tell he made an adjustment right there and he hit the ball to dead center." And it was just amazing to see him do that going from the first at bat to the second at bat. And you mentioned it was spring numbers. This doesn't mean anything, but I just like the fact that his average was 314 because that was Derek Jeter's rookie year average. That average has been stuck in my head since 1996 because that's how my brain works. I don't remember why I walk into a room, but I remember that Derek Jeter batted 314 in 1996. And I just think the whole, people have brought this up because Volpe is turning 22 April 23rd, I think is his birthday. And Jeter turned 22 June 26th of 96, and he was the opening day shortstop. And it's just, there's a whole bunch of similarities there. Don't expect Volpe to be like Jeter, but it's just fun to look at them being so similar and the situations being similar. And the fact that it's taken a generation for this sort of thing to happen again for a young shortstop to be on the opening day roster for the Yankees. It's kind of unbelievable.
Yeah, I think the Jeter comparisons are obvious,
Right.
warranted or not. They're obvious there. But yeah, the bigger question I think is, and the reason why neither you nor I thought Volpe was gonna make the opening day roster was because of a lack of potential playing time. So, do you think Anthony Volpe, for as much as he has done to get to the Major League opening day roster, has he done enough to not only win that spot, but win the opening day starting role? That's the bigger question, because a kid this age still needs at bats. That hasn't changed. Yes, he got 51 spring at bats. That's great, but that's nothing.
Right.
So is Volpe going to play? And that's why we've been so hard pressed on him not making it, because it didn't seem like the Yankees were willing to start him over IKF. So do you think, Stacey, will he start over IKF now?
Yes, because IKF has barely played shortstop during spring, and they're trying him out in every position, and they're even going to try him as backup catcher. So I'm thinking that Volpe is the shortstop until he isn't.
Wow. I mean, that would be the move that has to be made. But I don't know if it's the move. I mean, I'm not saying I disagree with you, but I'm still taking a wait and see approach.
Right.
Because remember, everyone just months ago clamoring for Oswald.
Right.
And he got there and wasn't playing.
Right.
And that's where us in AAA are going, look, it's great. We're happy for him. That's awesome. Like, he deserves this. He's worked his tail off to get to the bigs. But like, if he's there just to sit and watch, then why be there? He can buy a ticket and put him in a suite. Like, what are we doing? Let him take BP after the season's over. It doesn't matter. Let him run it out in that way. If he's not going to play, then what's the big deal? And that's my fear, is what's the clock on Anthony? Like, what are they going to be patient enough? Because they need to be patient. They have to give him at least a month of regular at bats to adjust, at least. Like, he's a kid. He's a kid that has barely played AAA ball, and I'm not putting it past him to be able to do it. I think he's got all the talent in the world. I love this kid, but they have to handle it right, and I think that's still where my gripe lies, and where I'm still like, is this going to happen?
I don't know. I feel like God, I know I just said that I was surprised that the Yankees actually did this and I was worried about it, but I feel like coming into spring training, they said it was going to be a competition between IKF, Peraza, Volpe. Then it really turned into Peraza, Volpe, and you didn't hear anything about IKF. And I feel like before spring training, even Hal talked about it. And I feel like they're not going to screw this up. I can't believe I'm saying this. And if I'm wrong, I'll admit I'm wrong when but I don't know. I don't think they'd be making such a big deal, making graphics, having the video of him being told he's making the roster. Like, he's making the roster, and I think he's going to play.
It feels like it, right? Like, it feels like this is it. This is the call up. Like, right? If this were mid-season, right? This is how they'd be handling it.
Right. Like, this is the thing that we thought wasn't going to happen until maybe August,
Yeah. I mean, I would have given it pre-deadline.
Yeah.
I think I anticipated it pre-deadline, but I don't know. We'll talk about Oswald later. I still think there's a whole can of worms we need to get into. But before we finish up this first segment, Stacey, Luis Severino, this was going to be our topic for the day, and then Anthony Volpe stole the show.
Yeah.
Sevy's out. Low grade right lat strain apparently is not the same spot of his lat that he hurt last season that held him out of play for, what was it, 2 months or
Yeah.
so. Clark Schmidt's going to be the second option now, so he'll be game 2 starter. So that's what, Saturday.
Yep.
They're talking about Jhony Brito potentially. He pitched well.
Yeah.
Some other options that were floated were Davy Garcia. Remember, he only has one option left, so I don't think that's the answer. And the other options were Randy Vasquez and Yoendrys Gomez, who neither of which have pitched in AAA. That was coming, I believe, from the New York Post. Oh no, it was coming from MLB.com that they were floating those ideas. Other ideas were Sean Boyle, Mitch Spence, neither of which are 40s. But your thoughts on Jhony Brito? I mean, he pitched really well on Sunday.
Yeah, I watched him on Sunday, and I was kind of impressed because he had really quick innings, whether he was striking people out on 3 pitches or getting fly balls to, left and center. And yeah, I was pretty impressed with him. And he was saying that Cole is helping him with his English and he's helping Cole with his Spanish. And there was another funny story that he told, and that he was saying that the veterans are being very nice to him and welcoming him and helping him. And I thought that was cool. And that was kind of my sign that I think he's probably going to be the 5th starter
Maybe.
at this point.
Maybe.
I think
yeah,
it's him.
Well, I'll give you some more thoughts on Jhony Brito in just a second. We got to run to an ad break.
Yes. I'm pretty excited about our new partner and sponsor of today's episode, the mobile game Ultimate Baseball GM. Locked On Yankee fans, have you ever dreamed of becoming like Brian Cashman and managing your own professional baseball franchise? Well, you can with Ultimate Baseball GM. Manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the season, and lead your team to glory. You hire the coaches and staff, you manage the money, you scout and draft players, you navigate your franchise through free agency and all the ups and downs of a season. All of this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Baseball GM is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want to. Locked On Yankees listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when they're using the promo code Locked On in the game store, so check it out. To download the game, you can visit probaseballgm.com, scan the code, or look it up in the app stores. That's probaseballgm.com. Ultimate Baseball GM. Start your dynasty today. So we were talking about Jhony Brito, and this was basically his audition. And they said it on Yes, coming into the game, talking about how this was his audition for the 5th spot, because the Yankees are missing 3/5 of their rotation now, which is, it's frightening to think about, but it's also, stuff happens and not everyone's, it's not like they've lost them for the entire season. They're out for varying points of the season. And, it's not a complete nightmare yet. And the Yankees have options. He's one of them. And as I said in segment 1, he looked pretty good. I mean, I know he's, he wasn't facing the meat of the Blue Jays lineup, but, he made some guys look silly. He made Matt Carpenter look silly. He made Kevin Biggio look silly. Those are major league hitters. So I was impressed with what he did.
Yes, I got to watch him last season, obviously. Very quiet kid, good head on his shoulders. He attacks you, but he's not going to blow you away. He kind of has a sneaky 96. Apparently his numbers are up as far as fastball, his average fastball velocity throughout spring. He's up by about a mile an hour, which is great. So he's added some velocity, but he hasn't been a guy that really blows you away. He's very quiet, both in his personal life, but as a pitcher as well. He's a ground ball machine.
Yes.
That is all he does, is he induces weak contact. He plays to the defense. So that obviously as a young kid can hurt you. I mean, that can hurt you at any age, because if that soft contact is no longer soft, then you got an issue. So this is coming from Connor Foley, Times Tribune. Jhony Jhony Brito, game. Toronto put 12 balls in play, and just 3 have been above 95 miles an hour. I'm putting up some numbers on screen on our YouTube side, so you can see the weakness of the ground outs. 79 on a pop out. He's inducing that weak contact.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's not the meaty part of the Toronto Blue Jays lineup there. But that's what he did. It's acceptable to the long ball because of it. I think it's a tempered reaction potentially if he's going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you should anticipate this is the next great coming of Jesus Christ here.
Right.
I like the kid a lot. He's a really, really nice guy, and I'm totally rooting for him. I think he needs more seasoning. But I think expectation wise, you just in total, right? We were talking about this off camera, but you kind of just got to weather the storm. Right. Like you don't have to freak out here. It seems like weathering the storm is kind of just the mojo right now.
Right.
We do have some reactions from our Locked On Yankees listeners. This is coming from Ray XAV on our community tab on YouTube. You can always be a part of the show, by the way, saying, please stop panicking. Sevy has a lat strain and seems to be slated so far to only miss 1 or 2 regular season starts. Rodon is on the mend and could be available soon after Sevy. The sky hasn't fallen yet. If anything, this gives Schmidt a chance to step up and Herman a chance to show that 18 wins from years ago. Stacey, your reaction to this?
I agree with not panicking, and we spoke about this before we started recording, but this is the ideal time for this sort of thing to happen because, if it happens toward the later part of the season, you can't make moves once, the trade deadline's over, once the waiver deadline is over. And, you'd rather have these guys coming back from injury in April and May than in August and September and then not know what you're going to get in the playoffs. So this is the ideal part of the season for it to happen. It's not ideal that this many guys are injured at the same time, but if you're looking at kind of like the brighter side of things or the grass is greener on the other side sort of thing, then that would be it, that it's happening now and not later in the season.
If there ever were an ideal time in season, this is it. We had one more reaction here from Juan Cepeda. Thanks so much for being a part of the show. I think they're a little thin at pitcher now. Perfect chance to flip someone for starting pitching. We have heard them say one cannot have too much pitching in October, even with Rodon and Sevy come back. Stacey, your reaction?
They're not flipping anyone yet. If they go after a starting pitcher, if they need to go after a starting pitcher, that's probably not happening until the trade deadline. And nothing's going to happen now. It's not like they're suddenly going to say, hey, let's trade Glaber for someone. That's not going to happen.
Because it would be, if they were having those conversations, it would be right now. But I think you still have to wait to see how severe the Sevy issue is.
Yes.
If it's 1 or 2 starts, even if it's just April, you just weather the storm. Throw Brito if you gotta, call up Weber if you gotta. Maybe Sean Boyle starts. Like, I think you kind of piece together a couple of games. If you have to figure out 4 games, it's only 4 games. You throw a bullpen day. Those things are all possible. I think the Yankees still overall. I hate saying the word when healthy, but when they're not all hurt at the same time, I think is better because they don't all have to be healthy to have a really good rotation. The Yankees have a really good rotation, even without Frankie Montas. And that's what we anticipated all year. So if you're looking at it from the perspective of where we were at the start of spring versus we are now, I still think you can kind of take the glass half full approach with, Frankie, you still get Frankie Montas here this season, potentially, which you did not anticipate at all this year. Right. So it's not, don't panic. I like Ray XAV or however you say your name on YouTube. Don't stop panicking. Like, this isn't, they're not going to trade anybody. If they did, I think that trade may have come anyway.
Right.
If they were going to move one of the big kids, right? Maybe we'll start calling them that, the big kids. They may have moved them anyway.
The Built March Madness bracket is here. We know you have a favorite bar or puff, and now's the time to make it count. Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com to vote for your favorites. I already voted for Cookie Dough Puff. I'm just telling you right now. So you can go and support your favorite bar or puff. And when you vote for your favorite bar or puff, you'll be entered into a drawing where 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built. Not only that, but one Locked On fan will win a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. You got to try Built. It's the best protein bar ever. Seriously, they're so amazing you won't think they're good for you. And what makes Built bars and puffs so good? They're all high in protein, low in sugar, and covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. So run to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day in March, so hop in and support your pick. So as expected, because we're getting closer and closer to opening day, the Yankees made more roster moves, and they optioned Matt Krook and Oswald Peraza to AAA. They reassigned Carlos I knew I was going to mess that up. Narvaez and Nick Ramirez to minor league camp. Bummed about Peraza, but I understand because we mentioned this in our projected roster show that it was either going to be Volpe or Peraza. Both of them couldn't stay, and Volpe, earned that spot.
Yeah, because we knew that the Yankees were likely to want to keep on having Florial. I think if Florial had more options, they may have done Peraza and Volpe.
Yeah.
But with that little thing where if you send him down, you can't, and he's gone.
Right.
They couldn't do that to Florial. So yeah, I think the more interesting part here, and yes, I'm bummed for Oswald, but I think the more interesting part is Matt Krook.
Yeah.
So we didn't have him in our projected roster, but then it was pointed out. I forget who. It may I don't know, MLB.com, whatever it was. No, I think it was the Athletic. That's what it was. The Athletic,
yes.
And we talked about it last week that they might put Krook in the pen because, well, at least we conjectured that, well, then they'd only have one left-handed option in the bullpen, and that seems to be the case. Now that they put Krook down in AAA, he's likely going to be a starter there, if not the opening day starter there, which would be on the 31st, which would be like 8 days from his last outing, whatever it was. But then they'll end up with just one lefty in the pen at the show, and that's Jhony Brito. Do you think that's a misstep, or do you think it is fair to put Krook down with the Rail Riders?
I think it's fair, but I really wish the Yankees weren't so righty heavy. Kind of like I wish they weren't so righty heavy in the lineup. But
well, they could also, we were talking about potential options to replace Sevy for a couple of weeks. They could always put Krook.
True.
Krook's always an option still because
That's
he
true.
has options.
Right.
But it seems like that's not the plan right now, because otherwise they would have kept them and they would have saved that option.
Right.
Just stay on the big league roster.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw him pitch. He pitched toward the end of, not the very end of Sunday's game, but he ran into some trouble. They went out and spoke to him, and then he got 3 straight outs. So
yeah. Okay, so that would be 5. It would be 5 days. Yeah. If he pitched on the 26th, then his 5th day would be opening day for the Rail Riders.
Yeah.
So he lines up. But he has been relieving all spring, which is kind of interesting. So I don't know. Anyway, other moves. Oswaldo Cabrera is on. Duh. Obviously, we knew that one, but that's been confirmed. Cabrera is on the opening day roster. Other ones that we knew, Albert Abreu. That seemed obvious, but Jimmy Cordero makes it.
Yeah.
We've been talking about Jimmy Cordero for a couple of weeks, Stacey.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on Jimmy.
Yeah. This is, I was like, oh, wow, look at that. Okay. And hey, I even talked about Jhony Brito in our episode where we were talking about guys that may have a chance to make it at some point this season. And
yeah, wasn't he one of your picks to click, right?
Yeah.
Spring picks to click. I guess we can revisit those. You picked Dominguez, which great spring. Spring. I picked Richard Fitz. I plopped out on that one. I picked Flo. I plopped out on that one.
Yeah.
But he made the opening day roster. At least we think.
At least we think. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like it. There'd be no other moves to be made. They wouldn't have optioned Peraza. But yeah, no, I mean, you win.
I was right about something. Let's just say it. I was actually right about something. I can't believe it.
Yeah, you beat me. Congrats.
Yeah.
But yeah, we obviously don't have the full roster. We anticipate pretty much having it right now. Like, we're looking at it. If I had to take a guess, Greg Weisert's on. Peralta, Marinaccio, Loaizaga, King, Holmes, Cordero, and Abreu. That's the pen right now. And then they're just waiting to see if they got an IL Sevy. And then everything else is set. Higgy, Trevino, Oswaldo, Flo, Hicks, Judge, Stanton, Donaldson, IKF, LeMahieu, Rizzo, Torres, and now Volpe. That's your 26 right there. That's what we anticipate. We'll have the full look here in a couple of days. So again, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We'll have our full Ultimate Yankees preview. Every single thing you could want to know. It's going to be a chock full episode. Opening day this week. We're here. You made it. You ready? Baseball. Here it comes. Anyway, hit that subscribe button. We got it on Wednesday, the Ultimate Yankees preview.
Thanks for making Locked On Yankees your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball with Matt and Dom as they bring you the best fantasy draft strategies every day. Find it wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Stacey Gatsoulias. We'll see you tomorrow.